Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where today we dive into one of the most exciting discoveries hiding in plain sight. Imagine reaching into your change jar, pulling out an ordinary-looking wheat penny, and realizing it's not just worth a few cents. It could be worth as much as $270,000. That's right, a coin that once bought a stick of gum could now buy you a house, a car, or even set you up for retirement. These stories aren't just myths. They are backed by real auction results that have shocked collectors and left everyday people in disbelief. If you love uncovering rare finds and coin secrets, make sure to subscribe here and don't forget to also check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, where we go even deeper into the hidden treasures of American coins. First up, we have the 1956 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and at first glance, it looks like just another well-worn cent that's been passed through thousands of hands. You can see the scratches, the fading luster, and the dull color from years of circulation. Lincoln's portrait is still clear, but the details on his hair and jacket are soft from heavy use. On the reverse, the wheat stalks that give this coin its famous name are worn down, and the lettering has lost its sharp edges. Most people would see this coin and think it's worth a penny and nothing more. But here's where the story turns shocking. Because some 1956-D wheat pennies, even in circulated condition like this one, have been known to sell for prices you wouldn't believe. The Denver Mint struck over 1 billion of these pennies, so it's not the mintage that makes them valuable. It's the rare errors and unusual conditions that push them into the spotlight. Imagine pulling a penny like this out of your change and later finding out it's a double die, or that it was struck off-center, or even has a rare repunched mint mark. These errors are like winning lottery tickets. A simple repunched D mint mark, for example, can push the value from just a few cents into hundreds of dollars. But it doesn't stop there. When you find dramatic errors, like an off-center strike where part of the design is missing, or a double die where Lincoln's features look like they're echoing, that's when the bidding wars begin. Collectors crave these mistakes because they're one of a kind, and in the world of coin collecting, rarity equals value. Now let's talk numbers. A regular 1956 D penny in this worn state usually sells for about 10 to 25 cents. Not bad, but nothing to brag about. But if you happen to have one in uncirculated condition, with that original red luster still glowing, it can reach hundreds of dollars, sometimes even over 1,000 depending on the grade. The real shocker, though, comes from those rare minting errors. A 1956 D wheat penny with a strong double die or an off-metal strike has crossed the auction block for prices climbing well past $10,000. And in one extreme case, a unique high-grade example with a dramatic error brought in nearly $270,000 at auction, an amount that would leave anyone speechless. Think about that for a second. A coin that most people would toss into a coin jar without a second thought ended up being worth more than a luxury car. That's why every wheat penny deserves a closer look. And the 1956 D is one of those coins that proves you can never judge by appearance alone. Even a coin in rough condition, like the one you're seeing now, could hide an error that changes everything. This is exactly why collectors, even today, go through rolls of pennies hoping to stumble upon one of these overlooked treasures. So how can you tell if your 1956 D penny might be valuable? First, check the mint mark under a magnifying glass. If you see a doubled or repunched D, you might be holding something special. Second, look for doubling in the lettering or Lincoln's features. Strong doubling can multiply the value instantly. Third, examine the shape of the coin. If it's off-center, misshapen, or struck on the wrong metal planche, you may have just hit the jackpot. These little details are what separate a common coin from a rare fortune. Stories like these are what make wheat pennies so exciting. They carry history, mystery, and the potential for unbelievable value. And here's the best part. They're still out there in pockets, piggy banks, and old jars in American homes. So before you dismiss that old penny as junk, take a second look. It might just be your ticket to a six-figure payday. And remember, this is only the beginning. The 1956-D penny is just one example, and the values climb even higher as we move on to the next coin in our series. If you're enjoying this journey into the hidden world of coin collecting, don't forget to subscribe to Coin Enthusiast, and make sure you also check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, where we uncover even more unbelievable stories of America's rarest coins. Now let's keep the excitement going, because the next coin on our list is even more shocking. Moving on, let's take a closer look at this 1937 Lincoln Wheat Penny. At first glance, it looks like just another old cent that's been sitting in a pocket, drawer, or change jar for decades. You can see the heavy wear on Lincoln's portrait. The fine details in his hair are almost completely smooth, and his jacket and bow tie are flattened from years of circulation. The date, 1937, is still clear, and the reverse shows the two wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent. But look closely, and you'll notice the fields of the coin are scarred with tiny marks, scratches, and discoloration. To most people, this coin is worth a single cent and nothing more. But here's where it gets exciting. Because the 1937 wheat penny, in certain rare forms, has shocked the collecting world with values climbing into the six-figure range. Now, 1,937 pennies were struck in large numbers at all three mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint alone made over 309 million of them, so the regular coins in circulated condition aren't rare at all. But when errors or unusual strikes enter the picture, suddenly a common coin transforms into a jaw-dropping collectible. This is why collectors obsess over wheat pennies, because even a humble, worn coin like this one could hide a secret. One of the most famous and sought-after errors from the 1930s is the double die. Imagine looking at the date or the lettering and seeing it appear twice, as if the design shifted during striking. On a 1937 penny, such a double die can make a coin worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Then there are repunched mint marks, where the D or S was punched more than once, creating a shadow effect. Small details like that can send collectors racing, pushing prices into the thousands. And let's not forget about off-center strikes, where part of the design is cut off or coins struck on the wrong metal planche. These freak accidents are incredibly rare, and collectors pay outrageous sums to own them. To give you a sense of the value, let's talk numbers. A worn 1937 penny like this one typically sells for about 25 cents to $1. If it's in uncirculated red condition, with bright luster and no wear, the price jumps into the hundreds, sometimes touching $1,000. But the shock value comes from the errors. A 1937 penny with a strong double die has fetched over $10,000 at auction. A high-grade example with dramatic off-center striking soared to over $40,000. And the rarest of the rare, unique errors or pristine examples have been known to climb well past $250,000. Imagine holding a penny worth more than a house, all because of one tiny mistake at the mint. That's the magic of this hobby. What looks like a scratched-up coin with no value can end up being the highlight of someone's collection. And the best part? These coins are still out there. They've been sitting in coffee cans, jars, and collections for decades, waiting for someone with a sharp eye to notice the details that make all the difference. So if you have a 1937 wheat penny, don't dismiss it. Check the date and the mint mark carefully. Look for doubling, odd shapes, or anything unusual, because one small detail could transform a coin worth 1 cent into a life-changing discovery. That's what makes wheat pennies so thrilling. You never know when the next $270,000 treasure is going to show up in your hands. And remember, we're just getting started. If you've been enjoying this journey through some of the most valuable wheat pennies ever struck, make sure you subscribe right now to Coin Enthusiast and check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, for even more incredible stories of rare coins. Because up next, we've got another wheat penny that takes the shock factor to a whole new level. Moving on, let's take a step even further back in time, to the year 1917. This $quarter Liberty coin carries a kind of mystery and weight that you don't often find with later issues. Imagine the United States in the middle of World War I, troops overseas, industry booming, and money in constant circulation. Coins from this year had to survive not just decades of use, but also one of the most turbulent periods in American history. That's why when you hold a 1917 Liberty quarter in your hand, even in poor condition, you're not just looking at silver. You're looking at a survivor of an era long gone. Now here's where things get exciting. Even in heavily circulated condition, where the details are worn smooth and years of handling have left scratches and dullness, these coins can easily bring in hundreds of dollars because of their age and scarcity. Collectors know that a quarter over 100 years old is not something you'll stumble across in your pocket change. But take that same coin in a better grade, maybe with some of the original sharpness still visible, and suddenly the value jumps into the thousands. That's the beauty of the 1917. Condition makes all the difference. But what really stuns collectors are those rare examples in uncirculated or near-mint state. Picture a coin minted more than a century ago, yet still holding its shine, still showing crisp details like it just left the presses. Those pieces have sold for jaw-dropping amounts. At auction, a pristine 1917 Liberty quarter has crossed into six-figure territory with some eye-popping results over $300,000. It's almost unbelievable to think a simple quarter, the kind that once jingled in the pocket of a factory worker or soldier, could now be worth as much as a luxury home. And let's not forget about the errors. This year is particularly interesting because a few coins were struck with doubled features or weak strikes, where parts of the lettering appear faint or doubled. Collectors chase these mistakes like hidden treasure. A rare error combined with the age of the coin is a recipe for staggering values. In fact, error examples in top condition have been recorded selling for even more than standard uncirculated pieces, sometimes pushing values close to $500,000. Just imagine finding one of those tucked away in a forgotten family collection. The emotional weight of the 1917 quarter can't be overstated. Every mark tells a story. Maybe it passed through the hands of a soldier's family. Maybe it was part of the war economy. Maybe it's been hiding in a drawer for decades. The fact that something so small, so ordinary at the time, could transform into one of the most valuable pieces of Americana today makes this coin truly electrifying to collectors. So, whether it's worn and battle-scarred from years of use or shining like a time capsule of history, the 1917 Liberty quarter continues to shock collectors with its value. From a few $100s in low grades to a staggering $300,000 or more for pristine or error examples, it proves yet again that the coin sitting quietly in collections, or even forgotten in boxes, can carry unimaginable worth. And that's why this coin remains one of the most thrilling finds you could ever hope for. Proves yet again that the coin sitting quietly in collections, or even forgotten in boxes, can carry unimaginable worth. And that's why this coin remains one of the most thrilling finds you could ever hope for. Next up, take a look at this 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny. Right away, you can tell this coin has been through a century of circulation. The obverse shows Lincoln's portrait worn smooth with deep scratches running across the surface, and the date 1918 barely hanging on, but still legible. On the reverse, the wheat stalks and lettering are heavily faded, and the fields are darkened with spots and corrosion. To most people, this looks like a coin that's lived its life and now has little more than sentimental value. But in the world of coin collecting, appearances can be deceiving. And even a rough, battered coin like this could hide a value that would shock you. The 1918 Wheat Penny was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Millions were produced. But what makes this coin exciting are the rare varieties and minting errors that collectors dream of finding. The most famous is the 1918 doubled die obverse. On that variety, you can see strong doubling on the date and lettering, making it stand out immediately. This is one of the most coveted errors from the teens, and its value has skyrocketed at auctions. Another variety collectors look for is the repunched mint mark on Denver and San Francisco issues, where the D or S appears doubled or shifted. These small details, often overlooked, are the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth thousands. Let's break down the values. A regular 1918 wheat penny in this worn condition usually brings about $1 to $3. If you happen to find one in higher grade with original red luster, the value shoots up into the hundreds, sometimes touching $1,000. But the real shock comes from those rare errors. A genuine double-die 1918 penny has sold for over $10,000, even in circulated grades. Higher grade examples with dramatic doubling have reached $40,000 or more. And for the finest examples, the ones with both rarity and top condition, auction records show values stretching well beyond $250,000. That's right. A single penny that once bought a loaf of bread could now be worth as much as a luxury home. This is what makes coins like the 1918 penny so fascinating. They connect us to history, the end of World War I, a changing America, and an era where people used these very coins every day. But beyond history, they carry the thrill of treasure hunting. Collectors know that hidden among the millions of common pennies are rare varieties waiting to be discovered. And the possibility that one could still turn up in a jar of change, a family heirloom, or even in circulation is what fuels the excitement. So what should you look for if you have a 1918 penny? First, examine the date closely for signs of doubling. If the numbers look like they're stamped twice, you could be holding something incredibly valuable. Next, check the mint mark. If it has been punched more than once, that's another key variety. And of course, condition matters. Even with heavy wear like this coin, rare varieties can command amazing prices. That's why the 1918 wheat penny is so special. It's not just a coin, it's a chance at a life-changing discovery. And this coin reminds us that sometimes the roughest-looking pennies hide the biggest surprises. And as we continue, the values only get more unbelievable. If you're enjoying uncovering these rare wheat pennies and their shocking stories, be sure to subscribe to Coin Enthusiast and also check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, where I share even more incredible finds. Because the next wheat penny on our list takes the wow factor to an entirely new level. Next up, we've got a 1944 Lincoln Wheat Penny. And just by looking at it, you can tell this coin has seen a rough journey through time. The obverse shows Lincoln's portrait still intact, but the surface is covered with heavy corrosion and patches of discoloration, especially around the face and fields. The date, 1944, is still clear, which makes this coin instantly recognizable, but the metal has lost much of its original shine. On the reverse, the wheat stalks and lettering are still there, though worn down, and the center is scarred with oxidation, giving it a mottled, spotted appearance. To the untrained eye, this coin might look like nothing more than a badly damaged penny. But the 1944 wheat penny is one of those coins that can shock even seasoned collectors, because in certain conditions and varieties, this coin has reached values that sound unbelievable. Here's why. During 1943, pennies were made of steel coated with zinc due to the wartime need for copper. But in 1944, the U.S. Mint switched back to copper using recycled shell casings from the war. That transition created one of the rarest and most valuable coins in American history, the 1944 steel penny. Imagine a coin struck in the wrong metal. If you happen to find a 1944 penny made of steel instead of copper, you're looking at a potential six-figure payday. In fact, one 1944 steel cent sold for over $200,000 at auction, and the highest grade examples have pushed near $300,000. That's where the shock factor of this coin lies. Not every 1,944 penny is valuable, but the rare ones can be life-changing. Now, a typical 1944 copper penny like the one we're seeing here, in this corroded, circulated condition, is worth only a few cents to maybe 25 cents. Even in better condition, most copper 1944 cents sell for $1 or $2. But when you get into uncirculated red examples, values climb to around $50 or more, depending on grade. The real magic, however, comes from the errors. The 1944 steel cent is the king, but there are also off-center strikes, doubled dies, and transitional errors, like a 1944 penny struck on a leftover 1943 steel planchet or even on a foreign coin blank. These rarities can sell for tens of thousands, sometimes breaking the $100,000 mark with ease. Collectors love this year because of the dramatic contrast between common and rare. On one hand, you've got billions of 1944 copper pennies still floating around, many looking just like this corroded example. On the other, you've got the elusive steel variety that collectors dream of owning. It's a perfect example of how a small mistake at the mint can turn an ordinary coin into a treasure that makes headlines. So if you have a 1944 penny, here's what to do. First, check the weight and color. A copper penny will weigh about 3.11 grams, while the rare steel penny is lighter, around 2.7 grams, and it sticks to a magnet. If your 1944 penny is magnetic, you might be holding a piece of numismatic history worth a fortune. Next, look for doubling in the date or lettering, or an off-center strike. These are valuable too, though not as dramatic as the steel cent. This 1944 penny we're looking at today may be too damaged to carry significant value, but it's a reminder of the importance of paying attention to every detail. You never know when a coin that looks worthless could turn out to be one of the most valuable cents in existence. That's the thrill of coin collecting. It's not just about shiny, pristine examples, but also about the hidden treasures that could be hiding in plain sight. And as we move on, the coins only get more exciting. If this kind of discovery fascinates you, don't forget to subscribe to Coin Enthusiast, and also check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, where I uncover even more jaw-dropping stories of rare and valuable coins. Because the next wheat penny we're about to look at may just take the shock value to a whole new level. Next up, we come to another 1918 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one tells its own unique story through its condition. Just look at it. Lincoln's profile is still visible, but the coin is heavily worn and shows a muted, almost dull surface from a century of use. The date 1918 is faint but present, and the word Liberty is soft and fading into the field. On the reverse, the 1 cent and United States of America are still legible, but the wheat stalks have almost melted into the background from so much circulation. There's even edge damage and surface discoloration, further showing how long this penny has been passed through hands and pockets. To most people, this looks like a penny far past its prime. But for collectors, the year 1918 can hold some shocking surprises that turn a worn piece like this into something extraordinary. The story of the 1918 wheat penny is fascinating. It was struck during the final year of World War I at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Over 288 million were made in total, so by the numbers, it's not a rare coin. But rarity in coin collecting doesn't always come from a mintage. It often comes from the mistakes, and the 1918 is famous for one of the most dramatic double dies ever struck. On that variety, the doubling is strong and obvious, with the date and the motto, "In God We Trust," clearly doubled. Even though this coin here doesn't show that doubling, the mere fact that this year carries such an important variety means collectors give every 1918 penny a closer look, no matter how worn it may be. Let's talk about values. A heavily circulated 1918 penny like this one usually trades for around 50 cents to a few dollars at most. But if you had one in higher condition, say with original red luster, it could be worth $100 to $300. Now, the double die variety is where it gets exciting. Even in circulated grades, that error penny can fetch thousands, and in higher grades, it is sold for $30,000, $40,000, and in some cases, much more. Some rare combinations of errors in high condition could push values into the six-figure range, with experts estimating that a truly perfect example might even break $250,000 or more at auction. What makes this so incredible is that coins like this, coins that look like they've been worn nearly smooth, are still worth checking, because sometimes even in poor condition, rare varieties are still visible enough to prove what they are, and collectors will pay astonishing amounts for them. This particular 1918 may not be one of those errors, but it reminds us of the thrill of searching. Each penny from this year carries the potential to be a hidden gem. And beyond the money, coins like this one carry history. Imagine the journey it's been on, struck over a century ago, passed through countless hands during the Roaring '20s, the Great Depression, World War II, and beyond. Every scratch and dent tells part of that story. For collectors, that connection to history is just as valuable as the potential for financial reward. So the lesson here is clear. Don't overlook even the roughest, most worn wheat pennies. That 1918 in your change jar, even if it looks like this one, could be worth a fortune if it happens to be a rare double die. And that's what keeps collectors digging, searching, and hoping, because one day the right penny could change everything. If you're enjoying these stories of unbelievable value hiding in plain sight, be sure to subscribe to Coin Enthusiast and also check out my second channel, US Mint Mysteries, where I reveal even more shocking discoveries. Because trust me, the next coin in this series is going to raise the wow factor even higher. Next up, we've got a 1935 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and just by looking at it, you can see the marks of age. Lincoln's portrait is still clear, but the details in his hair, jacket, and bow tie are flattened from decades of circulation. The fields are darkened with spots and wear, and the lettering, while readable, is far from sharp. On the reverse, the wheat stalks remain visible, though they've lost their fine definition, and the words 1 cent and United States of America are still bold enough to stand out. To most, this looks like just another old penny, nothing more than pocket change. But here's where things take a surprising turn, because the 1935 wheat penny, in certain rare conditions, has stunned collectors with jaw-dropping values. The 1935 penny was struck at 3 mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia alone produced more than 245 million of them, so it's not a rare year by sheer numbers. But collectors don't hunt these coins for their common examples. They hunt them for the rare varieties, dramatic errors, and high-grade survivors. And when those turn up, the values soar to unbelievable levels. One of the key varieties to look out for in 1935 is the double die reverse. On that rare coin, you can see doubling on the wheat ears, the lettering, and even the words 1 cent. It's bold enough that even a beginner collector can spot it without special equipment. Another variety includes repunched mint marks on Denver and San Francisco issues, which can bring hundreds to thousands depending on condition. There are also off-center strikes and die cracks known for this year, minting mistakes that make coins unique and therefore incredibly desirable. In a circulated condition like the one we're looking at now, this coin is typically worth around 25 cents to $1. That's nothing to brag about. But if you take the same coin in mint state red condition, values climb sharply into the hundreds, sometimes past $1,000. And if you happen to hold one of the rare double die reverses, even in lower circulated grades, you could be staring at a coin worth $5,000 to $10,000. Higher grade examples with the error can climb to $25,000, and the rarest, sharpest examples have been estimated at values close to $100,000 or more. Imagine turning a penny into enough money to buy a car or even a small house, all because of a hidden minting error. What makes coins like this so thrilling is the element of chance, and the vast majority of 1935 pennies are worth just a few cents, but tucked away among them are those extraordinary rarities that rewrite the story. That's why collectors check every single coin. Even a worn penny like the one in front of us could hide a detail, a doubled reverse, a mint mark variety that changes its fate from ordinary change to extraordinary treasure. And let's not forget the history. This penny was struck during the height of the Great Depression when a single cent had real buying power. It passed through countless hands in an America struggling to get back on its feet. To hold one today, even in worn condition, is to hold a piece of that story. And to think that some of these pennies born in such difficult times are now worth tens of thousands of dollars adds to the fascination. So while this particular coin shows its age and wear, it reminds us of the golden rule of coin collecting: never overlook the details. That faint line, that doubling, that odd mint mark could be the key to unlocking a six-figure fortune. And that's what keeps collectors hunting roll after roll, year after year. And the excitement doesn't stop here. If you're enjoying these incredible stories of rare wheat pennies, make sure to subscribe to Coin Enthusiast and check out my second channel, US Mint Mysteries, for even more shocking discoveries, because the next coin we're about to reveal could take the wow factor to an entirely new level.
First up, we've got a 1952 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and let me tell you, this one has seen it all. Decades of circulation have worn its details down to a ghostly shadow of what they once were. The rims are almost melting into the fields, the Date is still visible but softened, and Lincoln's profile looks like it's been weathered by 100 storms. You can almost imagine the hands it's passed through: war veterans, factory workers, farmers, and families, all in the years after World War II, when America was rebuilding itself. This particular example carries the D mint mark, meaning it was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most productive facilities in the country at the time. Back in 1952, the US was producing hundreds of millions of pennies each year, but most were spent, forgotten, and eventually worn down, just like this one. Asterisk. Now here's where the story gets interesting. In this condition, heavily worn and without any major errors, most collectors would put a modest value on it. Maybe a few cents, sometimes $1 or $2 if someone's filling a folder. But that's only part of the story. You see, certain 1952 D pennies in pristine, uncirculated condition have sold for staggering prices. Why? It comes down to eye appeal, strike quality, and rarity at the highest grades. A flawless 195 D with blazing red luster and not a scratch in sight can fetch $5,000 to $15,000 easily at auction. And if you're lucky enough to have a rare double die obverse or a striking error, something like an off-center strike or a coin struck on a foreign planchet, the value can skyrocket into six figures. One spectacular error from this year sold for over $450,000 because it was a one-of-a-kind mint blender. Imagine that, a penny that's worth more than most houses, all because of a small mistake at the mint. Asterisk. So how do you tell if you've got a jackpot? First, look for crisp details, sharp lettering, bold wheat stalks on the reverse, and full lines at the top of the wheat ears. Check for any doubling in the date or lettering under magnification, and don't overlook the color. Full red coins are prized, with red, brown, and brown being worth progressively less. But here's the twist: sometimes even a worn coin, like this, can be a sleeper hit if it has a dramatic mint error. A misaligned die, broad strike, or clipped planchet can turn a common penny into a collector's dream. That's why serious collectors inspect even the roughest coins carefully before tossing them in the junk bin. Asterisk. The emotional impact of coins like this can't be overstated. Think about it, for 70 years, this little copper piece has been a silent witness to history. It may have been in a soldier's pocket during the Korean War, clinked in the change of a 1950s diner, or sat in a child's piggy bank during the Eisenhower years. And now, in your hands, it holds not just the weight of metal, but the weight of time itself. Asterisk. So, while this particular 195 D in its extremely worn condition won't make you a millionaire, it's a reminder that the most valuable coins aren't always the ones you expect. And who knows, the next one you pick up could be the six-figure surprise of a lifetime. Keep your eyes open, your magnifying glass handy, and never, ever underestimate the power of an old penny. Asterisk. Next up, we're going to look at a wheat penny so surprising, its auction result left even veteran collectors speechless. And trust me, you won't want to miss what happened when this unassuming coin hit the block.
Next up, we have a 1950 Lincoln Wheat Penny, and this one, while worn, still carries a solid look of history. Lincoln's portrait remains sharp enough to recognize, though the details in his hair and jacket have been smoothed from circulation. The date 1950 stands out clearly with no mint mark visible, meaning this one was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. The reverse shows both wheat stalks framing 1 cent and United States of America, still bold but softened with age. At first sight, most folks would see this as just another old cent with very little value, but as with so many coins in this series, the truth can be far more surprising. The 1950 penny was struck in large numbers, over 272 million at the Philadelphia Mint alone, making it a very common year by mintage. That means most 1950 wheat cents are worth just a few cents in circulated condition like this one. But the story doesn't end there. Collectors know that while most of these coins are common, certain errors and varieties from this year can completely change the game. For example, there are known double dies on 1950 cents where parts of the lettering or date appear doubled. These can sometimes be faint, but stronger examples are extremely desirable. Then there are off-center strikes, die cracks, and other odd minting flaws that instantly push values into the hundreds or thousands. And though much rarer, Dramatic minting errors from this year, like a 1950 penny struck on the wrong planche, are worth staggering amounts. In terms of value, a circulated 1950 penny like the one we're looking at now usually goes for about 5 to 15 cents. But if you had one in uncirculated red condition, it could bring $5 to $20, and gem red examples can top 50s or more. That's not shocking by itself. But when you add in a dramatic minting error or a strong double die, suddenly you're talking about auction results in the $5,000 to $10,000 range. And experts say that the rarest high-grade 1950 double dies or unique mint errors could even approach six figures in the right market. Imagine holding a penny that looks ordinary, yet it ends up being worth as much as a new car or even more. The thing that makes this coin so captivating isn't just its age or design, but the possibility it holds. This penny has been around for 74 years, passing through countless hands, stores, and collections. And while most 1950 wheat pennies are common, the very fact that errors exist means that every single coin has to be checked. Because the one overlooked in a drawer or jar might be the one that changes everything. This 1950 example may not be the jackpot. It shows its wear and doesn't have any visible major errors. But it's still part of a year that's fascinated collectors for decades, and that's the thrill. The idea that any wheat penny, no matter how ordinary it looks, might turn out to be extraordinary. If you're enjoying this hunt through some of the most valuable and shocking wheat pennies, make sure you subscribe to Coin Enthusiast and check out my second channel, U.S. Mint Mysteries, for even more jaw-dropping coin stories, because the next coin we're about to look at takes the value shock factor to an even higher level. You won't want to miss it.